Jamie, I'm not going to invite you to these meetings anymore if you don't speak up. That's why you're here. That's why I'm paying you. After having kids, I'm better than I've ever been and more motivated for my career. I can make difficult decisions. I am the one to decide. I'm going to lead in my way. I'm going to bring my feminine energy. I'm going to be authentically me. Well, the biggest thing that happened to me career-wise, or that shaped me for my career, was leaving Texas for the first time and studying abroad. So I was able to study in several countries, work in different countries, do an MBA abroad. And I think that taught me not only how to see my country from a different perspective, but also get more of a worldview and make me different and unique by working with people from all over the world. So that was a defining life choice that set me up for my career. I didn't go to Harvard, but I gained enough life skills and a background that made me interesting and competitive. I worked at a startup called Retail Me Not, where I was one of the first few employees. And choosing to work there and being able to grow and learn and develop with some of the most talented people in the US in tech at the time really set me up for success and allowed me to get into product. I probably got into product 2 years later than I should have officially. I had to get the confidence to make the move to ask for the first product job I had, and that took some confidence building in myself. But that company allowed me to do many different jobs and eventually get into product and set me up to where I am today. So that was a big move of getting into product for the first time. I'm really grateful for that opportunity. And then another example is moving from head of product to CPO for the first time. That was a big jump for me that I found really exciting. I'd found myself always trying to have more influence. I think I was promoted because I was able to show that I could add more value in the C-suite than being one rung below. And I really developed a great relationship with the CEO in the first company where I became CPO by just helping make his life better, bring perspective, showing that I could add value beyond where I was. It's really important to find your voice, to figure out what you are best at and what value you bring, and start to believe in yourself more and more. Early on, I struggled to be as confident as I should have been and value my perspective. And I was lucky to have mentors and leaders that saw something in me that I hadn't seen in myself yet and helped me build that confidence. I remember a CEO at a company I worked at. I had a great idea in a meeting we were in, but I wasn't confident to speak up. So after the meeting, I shared my idea and he said, Jamie, I'm not going to invite you to these meetings anymore if you don't speak up and share your ideas. That's why you're here. That's why I'm paying you. So it took that, and I had somebody else saying, I know you're surrounded by people from Silicon Valley or that have more experience than you, but you're just as good as them, and you should value your opinion. So I have really vivid memories of these people acknowledging me and seeing something in me. So I think finding your voice, believing in yourself, getting the confidence to speak up, getting the confidence to lead is something you have to do. But the more you do it, the better you get at it, and it becomes natural. And I think it's also being willing to fail and make mistakes. Like, I've spoken up and got it wrong many, many times. But I think it's better to speak up than to not say anything, because how are you going to learn that you're wrong if you're quiet in the corner? Number one is by cultivating that growth mindset. I love learning new things, and I know that about myself, and that's what keeps me motivated and challenged, is to feel comfortable and confident enough to take on something completely new and different. I'm CPO, but I still have a lot to learn. I've seen people rest and get comfortable in a senior role, and they're not up with the latest technologies, trends, or industries, and I'm always learning. I'm reading a book on pricing right now, because it's something I want to get better at and learn from the best on that. So having that growth mindset is really important. Also, developing good relationships with the people in any new role. I like to really spend a lot of time getting to know the people I respect and admire in a business and try to learn from them. I ask everybody in a new job, What would you do if you were me? If you were the CPO, what should I know to get on board as quickly as I can in a new industry? But what I found is being in product, no matter if I'm in travel or health, the same problems face every organization. I can apply leadership skills no matter what industry. Customers are always going to struggle with software and technology, and there's ways we can help through software. So the context is different, but the job and the skills I bring as an executive are very similar and translate across industries. When I first got into product, I was asked to take on a platform in Europe, move all of our websites onto one platform and launch new markets off this platform. And it was one of those moments where I had to make a very, very difficult decision. So the decision was, it had already been developed in the UK. We had months of coding under our belts. And once I got closer to the work and in the countries I was working with, I was like, this should be developed in France. The UK has no business doing this, where we would be faster and more effective. But I was, new a few years into product. I'm not qualified to make that decision. Who am I? I remember being on a train between Paris and London, calling my mom saying, I want to recommend that we cancel this and start over. And it took me a few weeks of building up the courage to acknowledge this and admit it. But after I did, it was the right thing. And I think it taught me that I can make difficult decisions. I am the one to decide. And it's moments like those that teach you how to lead, that teach you how to make difficult decisions. And throughout my career, I've continued to make difficult decisions and try and do more. That's how you build confidence. One thing I did early in my career was just find people I admired and respected to emulate. I don't have to do that as much anymore, but I remember finding a COO who I liked, and I just would learn from her, try to copy her, mimic her, or a product person that I would be like, what would they do in this situation, and just do that. And for executives, I think what I would do before I had to present to executives is I'd think of the COO I admire, and I'd write down, what are the 10 things Kelly is going to ask me? So I'd write down the questions and put myself in her shoes. And I think it helped me think like an executive. Over time, I built that confidence to becoming my own voice and my own perspective. Often women for me that I admired, respected, could learn from how they lead, the voice they bring is really important. And I try to also now help women or anybody that I mentor to find their voice the same way I was supported. The most important thing is to know what you want. What are your goals? I've had coaches, I've had support, I've had mentors. And the first thing they ask me is, what are your goals? Where do you want to be? I know I'm CPO now, but I have goals. I have a plan. I want to do new things. I have big plans for my career. And I think it's really difficult to not only know it, but tell people. Because once you tell somebody you have these ambitious goals, you're being vulnerable. You're opening yourself up for failure, or that other people could see that you could fail. But I've tried to go past that and make sure I am vocal and honest with myself and others what my goals are. And then once you know your goals, you can ask for help. You can have a plan. You can reach out to mentors. You can think about what skills you need to develop. And the other thing is, if you're able to share your goals, you can ask for help and you can ask for support. You can ask for sponsorship or mentors. And that's just incredibly important to finding more success or finding bigger problems to solve or to go after. Don't underestimate figuring out what you want and being vulnerable enough to admit it, or being vulnerable enough to take a big risk or a big swing of doing something new. It took me probably 2 years too long to get into product because I wasn't confident enough to say I want that and to move down a rung. I had to give up my empire. I had a team of 10 people in merchandising, and I was really confident and great and seen, but I had to give all that away to be an individual contributor in product. And that was really, really tough. But I thought about the future and the opportunities I'd have being in product and made the right decision. It goes back to, we talked about finding your voice, is just building confidence and believing in yourself. And that comes from really just doing it over and over and making hard decisions and backing yourself, preparing, cultivating that growth mindset. continuing to always learn and bring your best. It comes from experience. It comes from pattern recognition. And then eventually, I've noticed throughout my career, a decision that used to take me weeks or months, or I'd have to get feedback or get more alignment. Now I just make the decision and I back myself, and I know I'm qualified to make these decisions. And that just comes from constantly getting out of your comfort zone, making decisions, doing it over and over and over, and it comes with experience. But also practice. Early on in my career, I'd practice. I'd stand in front of a mirror and I'd work on what I was going to say. I don't have to do that anymore, but I needed to do that to get going. And now it comes natural. The older I get, the more confident and supportive my inner voice is, my inner monologue. And I try to be kind to myself and support myself if it's not. I also have a supportive network. I need people to reach out to that believe in me, that help build me up. I'm lucky I have a great husband who I can go on walks with and work out where I'm scared or where I'm less confident. I have people that I can lean on for support. So I have often other women who are in similar roles that I can talk to, bounce ideas off of, ask for help, because it's too hard to do it on your own all the time. You need to find people that can help you and be your cheerleader when you need one. I grew up around men. I'm the youngest and I have two older brothers, so I naturally was comfortable around men, and that's been helpful. But there's a book I read early on in my career, and it's very cheesy. It's called How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I think it was written in the 80s. And, I found being in product, I was mostly working with men. Most of the developers were men, and still are. And one of the pieces of advice in that book is everyone's interesting if you ask the right questions. Having to connect with more introverted engineers and draw them out and learn from them, it takes more work, and it was not easy, but I've tried to make sure I develop strong relationships and not be intimidated by anybody. And then I also apply the same thing to a board member. They're probably nervous as well. How can I connect with them, draw them out, learn from them? So I've tried to just build good relationships, particularly with men or women. That's taken time and practice and confidence to speak to a new CEO or someone that might come off as intimidating, but leaning into that and coming with a plan and building up your confidence. So I think building good relationships is essential no matter what role, but working in male-dominated industries, not let that intimidate me, but leaning into the discomfort is kind of what I still do. And now I was at a workshop the other week on data and AI, and it was me and 25 men. But it doesn't faze me anymore. It doesn't faze me anymore because I'm just so used to it. I'm going to lead in my way. I've had male bosses or people I admire that lead in a certain way, but that's not me. I'm going to bring my feminine energy. I'm more of, I'm warmth sometimes or nurturing support. I'm going to be authentically me as a leader. And that's what makes me different. And that's just who I am, which comes naturally. Men can bring more dominating personalities, but I'm confident to go toe to toe and make sure I speak my voice. I see a lot of women get really comfortable in the number 2 role, the support role. And I think that's early in my career. I was the note taker. I was the support. I was I'll help in any way I can. And that helped build up my confidence. But you can get comfortable in that number 2 role. There's just so many women with so much potential that I see that could do more. If they believed in themselves, if they took the initiative, if they asked for what they want, they could be greater because I know they've got the skills, the expertise, the intelligence. They've just got to step up and lead and acknowledge their goals, ask for what they want. But maybe they need a tap on the shoulder. Maybe they need to be told, like, you're fantastic. You could do more. I see you in this light that's bigger than what you're doing now, so they can build up the confidence. But yeah, that's what I see. After having kids, I am more motivated. I am better at my job because I'm not dating. I'm not going out. I'm better than I've ever been and more motivated for my career. That surprised me. Yeah. And I'm really relieved by that and excited about my career. I really know what I value in life, and that's like family time, connection, and doing a great job at work. And you can't do it all and have it all. So I've had to make sacrifices. Like I don't drink anymore. I'm in bed by 9:30. I want to have quality time with my family and with work, and I have to make some sacrifices. I don't have a fancy car or a fancy house, but I get help with laundry and cleaning, things I don't want to do that will take time away from my career and my family. And that's just how I choose to spend my money and how I prioritize my time. But it's important to me to show my twin, I have a boy and a girl, what I had. I had a mother who was a pioneer in her career and an executive, and I want to set a good example for them as well. So that's important to me. This is so important, and I spend most of my mentoring and networking time helping and supporting women, and also finding women that can support and help me. I try to pay it forward and from take all the things I've learned and where I've gotten support and pass that on to others. So it's so important that we find talented people that just need a leg up or need sponsorship or mentorship to give people opportunities. So I almost all my networking and mentoring is to help women, because there's just so much potential, and more more companies and more boards and more spaces needs female voices. I was in the vet and health industry, and most of the workforce is women. I'm in a house sitting company right now, and uh, in product, most of our customers are women making those decisions. So you should have more women in product and technology helping to build the products of the future. So it's important that we champion and find more women to lead, especially in technology. I think it's all about creating that growth mindset. So being ready to take on new skills, learn new things, get clear on your goals, and have a plan, a growth mindset to help you achieve your goals. That's the number one thing.